Amy, you are someone who served this country. What do you make of these attacks on Tim Walz, his record, and how he's responded?
Yeah, well, what was not played there was that J.D. Vance also attacked Governor Walz by saying that he somehow dropped out of the military in order to not go to Iraq. And all of this stuff is just, it's so outrageous. And those of us, first of all, as a post 9/11 vet, to myself, to watch another post 9/11 vet denigrate somebody who served 24 years, it just hurts to watch. But on top of that, you know, what Governor Walz did today was he acted exactly the way a former command sergeant major would act, in a way that was honorable. He basically said, look, J.D. Vance served honorably, and I'm proud of my service as well. J.D. Vance, on the other hand, is acting juvenile. I mean, that's basically what he's doing, and attacking somebody else's service. It makes me sad as a veteran. But at the same time, remember, he's part of the Trump world. Trump was the one who attacked John McCain. Trump was the one who started attacking Gold Star families. And J.D. Vance is just falling in line with what Donald Trump has been doing for years. No longer is the Republican Party that follows this the party of patriotism and the party of veterans when they attack veterans this blatantly.
Stuart, put emotions aside, right? From a political strategy standpoint, do these attacks on Tim Walz's record, to Donald Trump going on and on about her crowd sizes, lying about AI, how does that serve their campaign? How does that win them votes?
Well, it's not winning them votes. They're losing votes. You know, Trump has always had this fundamental problem in this race. He lost by 7 million. He needs new customers. So what is he doing to get these new customers? He's doing nothing. And I think what we're seeing now is, and I've seen this before in campaigns, when a candidate thinks that they have won, which Trump clearly did when they went into that convention, and then it's pulled away, that takes a lot of emotional maturity to deal with. And emotional maturity is something that Trump has absolutely zero amount of. So what this campaign is really an extension, exactly as Amy was saying, an extension of Donald Trump. An angry guy. He picked an angry guy in J.D. Vance, who's kind of mad at the world, mad at where the world is going, afraid of the future. And I just don't think that this is very appealing. Usually the most optimistic candidate wins. You want to feel better about voting for someone. And I think you see that in these crowds and how people have come to them. There's being part of this process is helping people, making people feel like they're helping others and helping the country. And that's a good feeling. It's not an angry feeling.
Okay, Stuart, I want you to stay on that because you've run campaigns. If you were inside the Trump campaign right now, if you were running it, what would your reaction to be? I mean, tonight I saw Nikki Haley on conservative media, and she said independent voters like Kamala Harris because she brings hope. She's talking about freedom and a way forward. We do not want a former president talking about the past. If Nikki Haley, who actually has a lot of sway with independent or moderate Republicans, and has endorsed Donald Trump, is on television saying Trump is doing the wrong thing, what's happening inside Trump HQ tonight?
You know, just as a note, I think it's fascinating that for a couple of years, the conventional wisdom in politics was that one of the problems President Biden has is that people think he might not have gone the distance, and then you would end up with Vice President Harris as president. So it just shows how wrong the conventional wisdom is, because now she's exploded on the scene. You know, all you have to do is look at the text that was prepared for Donald Trump to give us his acceptance speech. That's the document that says where the campaign thought they should be going. And then compare that to the speech that he actually gave. I mean, dissertations are going to be written about this. Trump couldn't stay on his own speech text for 10 minutes. And then his sort of like inner Trumpism came out. And this isn't going to change. You know, 79-year-old men do not change. And that's the problem you have inside that campaign. You can sit in that room and you can come up with the best ideas, But the execution of this is always going to falter because it comes down to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is just such a flawed candidate and flawed human being.